Hey everybody, it's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. I want to talk about the wintry weather coming to parts of the area. We'll talk about the long range pattern and why we're likely not going to see snow here in the next 5 to 6 days, but we are going to see a couple potential ice events for parts of the Carolinas. So let's get right to what just happened tonight. We had an upgrade or an update to the winter weather advisory. We had several counties added to this. Already had most of the mountains added, but now we're adding some of the Unifor region, which does include Alexander County, as well as all of Burke and Caldwell. That's new, as well as parts of Mitchell and McDowell County. This is primarily for freezing rain in the morning. I'll explain why. We've got the cold air just to our north and west. That Arctic boundary is sitting just basically to our north and west. And what's happening is we're starting to see some cooler air spill down in that typical what we call cold air damming regime. That's starting to set up the potential for some wintry weather in our region. Now what happens is that cold air kind of filters down in this direction and we get overrunning. You can see the moisture pushing up and over it. So down at the surface where we are, basically around 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet or lower, we've got temperatures that are falling pretty quickly and dry air coming in from the northeast. Above our heads, we've got warm moist air, which is surging in. Now I'll show you this stalled front. You could see it off towards the west, but notice how temperatures are really starting to plummet here, and you can see that backdoor front, that cold air is spilling in. We call this cold air damming because the mountains trap the cold air against them. Now, you know, oftentimes we think the cold air traps it from coming over, blocks it. In this case, it's coming around and it's getting trapped against the mountains. And as we get this warm, moist air over our heads, that's going to cause some issues. So overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, and even on Saturday morning, and I think again on Sunday morning, these areas right in here potentially could have some freezing drizzle, rain, or mist. Now, we're not talking significant ice storm where power lines, tree branches. This is really a travel issue on bridges and overpasses. So please, if you're traveling early in the mornings tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, you might want to avoid those bridges or overpasses, or at least make sure you're not, slamming the brakes on, hitting the gas, or making a lot of crazy wild swings with the steering wheel. Here's a look at the temperatures, and I'll show you how they'll continue to fall tonight. You see that northeast wind just pumping the cold air in. I mean, this is a miserable setup. This is about the worst weather you can imagine. I would love to see snow, but there's nothing worse than cold rain. It's just, it's miserable. And you see the freezing conditions in the mountains and foothills. During the day tomorrow, I mean, it's the middle of the afternoon, folks, and we're stuck in the 30s. So you thought today was miserable. Take about 10, 15 degrees off it. That's basically tomorrow's weather. And it doesn't change a whole lot. Saturday, we're still in the 30s. And again, notice in the mornings and evenings when the temperature drops a little more, so when we see that potential freezing, you see even during Saturday afternoon, even on Sundays, we go towards Sunday morning. I mean, maybe we'll warm up into the 40s briefly, but that might be all we're able to muster. So let me show you that FUTURECAST close up, and I'll show you the areas of ice we're concerned about. You can see really early tomorrow morning. Notice the pink, and again, this doesn't have to be heavy. This is freezing drizzle or mist, so even the FUTURECAST and radar won't do justice to what's falling. Light mist or drizzle or even fog that can freeze on contact. You can see during the day tomorrow, even though it doesn't show a lot of green, there'll be mist and drizzle around most of the day. Just a miserable day. And then Saturday morning, another big surge of moisture. And notice we still have some pink showing up there north. And again, I think the same areas we'll have to potentially watch. I mean, Saturday, it's just real heavy rain. Temperatures stuck in the 30s all day. It really isn't until Sunday that maybe we start to see some drier weather. There's some hints of some thinning of the clouds. I would not count on that. That is not going to happen. And just to show you the probability of seeing 1/10 of an inch of ice, hope this graphic plots, you could see the area we're highlighting. I mean, it's the same area right there. That's the area of greatest concern. So what's going on? Long range, we've got an active storm track, but not enough cold air for winter weather. Here's the weekend system. You see Friday into Saturday, mostly rain and ice with the snow off to the northwest. Early next week, I'm going to stop it right here. This is a big winter storm for the middle of the country, but because the cold air is all here and not here, we have to rely on cold air wrapping around the mountains, and it's just not deep enough. That ends up being an icing event. And if you look, that's basically what we're seeing for the Carolinas, another threat for freezing rain, maybe down into the Piedmont. And the snow is off to the northwest. And this pattern actually stays active. Another system through the middle of the country, and it's just rain for us, maybe some ice and snow to the northwest. If we wanted snow, two things need to happen. the high, the Arctic high has to shift this way, and the storm track has to shift this way. The reason it's not doing that is because we've got a ridge off the east coast of the United States, a pretty significant ridge. And I'll show you real quickly. I think I could show this in the pattern. Let me stop this right here. Let me back this up. We'll stop this right here, and I'll show you the upper level pattern. I mean, this is exactly what's going on. We've got the cold air went into the middle of the country. Once it got there, it got stuck because we've got a big ridge off the east coast, warm water over the Atlantic and Caribbean, warm water in the Pacific, big ridge here. These are big blockers or bumpers in the atmosphere. So once the cold air got here, it can't go east and it can't go west. It just sits there. It just waits for surges of cold air to come down. The only good news is we have this crazy storm track, which is sitting right over the middle of the country. So I built this graphic tonight to kind of explain. You see the cold air there, right in the middle of the country. You know, for the next 5 days, it's going to be sitting there. There's our storm track on the edge of that Arctic air. So anywhere that has Arctic air, the storm track's throwing moisture back in there. But what happens with that storm track, the way it is and where the Arctic air is positioned, that's where the snow falls, back there in the white. And then you look where the ice falls in between. And then further south and east, you've got the rain. So that's basically the setup we have right now. The ice is there and the rain is there. So until anything shifts, we are not going to see that snow head our way. We need the cold air to move. Now, it's still early. I mean, it's still the middle of, February here. And while I don't see this becoming a snow event for us in the next 5 to 7 days, long range, the pattern, who knows? We've got that cold air. I guess the only good thing is that cold air sitting over the middle of the country, getting snowpack built up on it. There's going to be a big reservoir of cold air. So if it ever does start to shift east or the track shifts a little farther south, we could be a little more favorable. And actually, if you look next weekend, I'm going to stop it right about here. Let me back this up right about here. This is where things look interesting in the pattern. And you see that there's a dip in the jet stream now over us. The ridge has been shoved off to the east. There's a ridge building over the desert southwest. The cold air starts moving into the Carolinas. So this is next Friday into next weekend. And if this happens, well, all this cold air here, this probably doesn't do justice to the cold air that would be in place. So that's why we're not seeing the snow and cold right now, but we'll have to see if that changes. The one thing that's fascinating about all this is the amount of snow that could be laid down in Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas. That'll be all-time snow for them and cold. And the fact that there's so much cold air surrounding us means any cold outbreak will keep the air colder. So we've got refrigerated ground all around us, which is something to keep an eye on as we go towards the end of the month in early March, which probably still obviously keeps the option open for snow. But right now, I can tell you, we're either seeing ice or rain or sleet in the next 5 to 7 days. Beyond there, maybe next week, late next week, or into the weekend, we'll have a different story. But that's it for now. I'll do updates on the ice. Please be safe if you're traveling early in the morning or late at night in the mountains, foothills, and up into Virginia, because that's where we're going to see some nasty weather.